Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever episode of Tavern Talk. This show is all about interviewing and discussing the wonderful world of Disadvantaged. Today we have joining us the game master himself, Mr. Dan.
Yo!
We also have joining us, playing the role of Blark in the game, Mr. Jeff.
Hello.
And the one, the great, the only Mr. Tip, who plays Mozus.
Yep.
I have a few questions just regarding your guys' involvement with the beginning of this, because I know it's been an interesting change to see. Jackass Express is usually known for, the podcasts and doing the animations and doing our the little collaborations that we tend to do. Recently, because Dan had a really great idea to do a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, it's allowed us to explore different areas of creativity that I frankly did not know existed in this group. So for that, Dan, really good job. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And so I thought I would just get this going real quick with a couple of questions regarding each of your episode zeros. For those of you that may not know this, Dan started each of the four players, Sax, Jeff, Tip, and Chase, with what you called session zeros, right? And that's just to kind of introduce the characters?
Yeah, it's kind of like an alternative or a precursor to the typical, okay, you're all in a tavern sitting across from each other. Like, a lot of campaigns will start like that. So I wanted to try and make it a little bit different and give these, the characters are living, breathing people. They didn't just all of a sudden appear in a tavern. They had lives before this, so I kind of wanted to go from where they were and bring them together that way.
It's kind of like the Marvel version of Dungeons and Dragons. Like, each has an individual story, and then they all get thrown in together.
Yeah, I guess.
I think that's cool. Fleshes out character and character development. I think my first questions are going to go towards Jeff. Now, Jeff, a lot of my questions are just going to be based off of, what would Blark do? What do you think that he would do in this situation?
Okay.
At the beginning of your session, Dan mentions that Blark is a hero of a civil war from his own town. Now, or his own city. Can you recant any of the triumphs that Blark had during the Civil War? What made him such a hero?
I might be the only one that didn't do the background. I don't know.
No, I think... Jonathan didn't do one either, but I mean, he's Tom Jones, so background's already written there. I kind of came up with that myself.
I beat people and made women cry and listened to the lamentations of my enemies.
Mm-hmm. Now, I understand if some of these stories are a bit fabricated for the sake of, not fabricated, but you know what I mean, embellished as to, make it more what you feel Blark was best known for during the Civil War.
Killing things.
I like it.
Accurate for a barbarian.
That's kind of what I was going for. I don't want to have to think or worry about whispering incantations. I just want to hit things with the super overpowered weapon I was given and watch them crumble before me.
Oh, God.
I guess also catch on fire.
And as a result, do you feel like this gives Blark this kind of image of himself that he's just the best no matter what? Because I know when he spoke with the bartender, he was very liberal with his demands. He demanded a jug of ale.
Yes.
So.
That is right.
Awesome. Sounds very realistic.
I think so.
For anyone that knows Jeff,
again,
that is
typical barbarian.
Who's also a half orc, correct?
Yes. I wanted the ugliest character I could get.
All right.
Well, how did you feel about Cord, the city's champion?
He was weak. Shouldn't have been the champion.
Do you feel?
Well, now Blark is, isn't he?
I think I am now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's this court guy?
Yeah.
He's crying in some alley now.
And that was the other thing. Is he crying in some alley, or did Dan? Maybe you can help me with this. Did Blark kill him? Because you said he took his last breath, and I was like, okay.
He didn't kill him. It was a fist fight, so there was no weapons involved. That's why the damage was the way it was, and
You can kill.
It sounds weird when you tell somebody to roll 1d2 because a d2 doesn't exist, but it's a d4 halved. But yeah, it was just it was a melee thing. So he knocked him unconscious.
Okay. So he's still out there.
So he's probably in an infirmary somewhere. Rest.
Do you feel that? Does Blark worry Jeff that he's going to come back looking for a rematch someday?
Oh no, not at all.
No, not at all.
No.
But he
puny.
I like that. I like that confidence that Blark has.
Yeah, I just rush in with my flame tongue hammer thing that used to be the Holy Avenger, and I don't care what happens. I just start wailing on people. Or snake things.
It's a sound strategy. I wouldn't move away from it.
Yeah. It's worked for me so far.
Do you feel that Blark is a kind of reserved person from other towns, other people? Does he just only interact with people he likes and he wants to talk to?
Yeah.
Because go on. I'm sorry.
I don't want to talk to anyone I don't have to. And if they talk too much, I try to pull them apart with my friend, whatever his name is.
Well, I was actually about to ask this question: what was this reaction that brought Blark to? What was Blark's first impression of Jorak?
I was happy that I wasn't the only non-squishy person in the room.
Go on.
He's my people.
So you feel like Blark's more comfortable with other orcs and barbarians, warriors like himself?
Yes.
Now, Dan, what was the decision to bring in Jorak late in the game? I know he didn't really get a session 0, but he just fit right in with everybody.
Yeah, well, Blue, the guy that plays him, showed interest late, I suppose, or maybe he came to the group after we had recorded most of the session 0. So I just thought, instead of trying to write a whole other thing, I'll just bring him into the first session, find a way to weave him into the story, and it seemed to work.
Yeah, he's our ace in the hole.
So you feel like most people, Blark has kind of like this, okay, I'll allow it for Jorak. He's different from other people.
Yeah.
Cool.
Exactly. He's better than other people.
Now,
I have this vision in my head that they're gonna turn into like the Bash Brothers from
the Mighty Ducks.
That's right.
Yeah, I think it was the second one or the third one. I don't remember.
I think it was the second one when they did the World, Mighty Ducks versus the World.
I think you're right.
And then somehow Mighty Ducks versus the World wasn't the pinnacle of their career because they had to go to prep school.
They had to prepare for something.
Yeah, they went to prep school, and all those prep school kids were better than the world hockey teams. The Mighty Ducks is a weird franchise.
That's putting it lightly.
Do you feel that any movies or television shows help inspire Blark's character, Jeff? Is there something that you look towards to be like, I want to be like that guy?
Mighty Ducks 2.
Well played, sir.
And Conan the Barbarian.
Of course.
Not Conan the Comedian.
It's interesting you say that because I
I know.
Moving on to Mozus, because
Yeah.
I am beside myself with the selection of the character Mozus, a non-copyright infringing character developed from, possibly inspired by some other text that has existed in history.
It's in the public domain now.
Yeah, I don't think that the inspiration behind this character is copyrighted by anybody. So
I know.
I mean, the whole idea behind Moses's character development is I had said I wanted to be Mozus, the actual Mozus, and everyone told me no, you can't because that'll offend people. So I changed it up just a tad, put a Z where an S is and a U where a E is, and made a new guy.
So like that's the understood spelling of Mozus, because that was another question I had was, what is the official spelling of Mozus?
Moses.
That's the real spelling.
Correct.
Yes.
That's the one that's not in this campaign at all.
The campaign is MO'Zus.
All right. Sounds good.
Technically, in Egyptian, it would be pronounced like Mozus. So nothing like the
nothing
book character you're referencing. I mean, he did lead a group of people in the desert. That's beside the point, though. That's beside.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say that I'm leading this group yet.
No, you.
Everyone in the group.
Secret to hide from the group, though.
Everyone
in the last group got lost in the desert for 40 years. So
I'm gonna smash you.
No, all the other characters seem to have a form of contempt for Mozus. Like, you know, they really don't want him to be there, but they know they need a sorcerer of some sort. And
but he's not the one I tried to pull apart. I think you misunderstand what contempt is, and if I had contempt for you, I would have pulled you apart instead of.
Oh, now we're getting to that. We're getting to those questions. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on, Jeff. Hold on. Now, the thing about Mozus is that introduction is what got me thinking, because he was abandoned by his troop and decided to pursue the arcane forces. Oh man. So okay,
I feel like I would have gotten in trouble if I said, he found these rocks that had some writings from a deity on it, so he decided to go practice magic.
Okay.
It's too close to the real thing.
Yeah, a little bit.
Now, I'm going to ask kind of a trivia question on Mozus to see if Tip remembers this from his character.
Shoot.
Who is Dapkus?
Who is Dapkus?
Yes.
That's the dude that did the whole contest.
Okay. Now, I know at least one other person here knows whether or not that's the correct answer.
Actually, no, he's the first guy I beat. Or the second guy.
Dan, do you know the answer to this question?
Yes.
Dapkus is in Moses' session 0.
He's mentioned in your session 0.
Oh, I know who Dapkus is.
Who is
He's the guy that gave Mozus the ability to use any spell during his competition.
Closer. He was the Grandmaster.
Yeah, the guy that gave Mozus the idea, hey, you can use whatever you want with this piece of paper.
Well, the guy that gave it to you wasn't Dapkus, but...
Well, yeah, I know that.
Wasn't... Go on.
Just because that name is actually the name of the ranger character that I play in my own campaign.
Oh, how's he the Grandmaster of Sorcerers, then?
They're not the same character. I just took the name. I'm just saying.
Oh, okay.
The character that I play, like, I was trying to find a way, and I always try and find a way to weave things in from existence, I suppose, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Like things from the real world. Like when I was introducing Tom Jones, and it's not unusual to find a guy like this in a place like this. Of course, referencing the song. So I just try and put like little pieces of me in the story, and that was a little known. Like I think 8 people would have got that right away and be like, oh, that's his character. But now whoever listens to this knows.
So 9 people.
Yeah, 8.5.
I think that's really interesting. That's cool, the way that you can just kind of like play things from life and just kind of turn it into the reality of this game. That's what's always been interesting to me about this Dungeons and Dragons. It's completely made up as you go, but the only person who really knows the history is the DM.
Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah.
There was a thing in Tip Session 0 as well, but I won't reveal what that was.
Well, now with Mozus, going back to Mozus, is
Okay.
he likes to, I'm assuming he likes to go on strolls, because that was the one thing you wanted to do the next day after you woke up from some very elaborate dream sequence.
Yeah, Mozus is a wanderer. He likes to go on long walks, see
Like
where
a
he
woman?
ends up. I would say his lack of direction is similar.
What does Mozus think about, like, on these strolls? What's in his mind?
I really don't think he thinks. I think that's why he does it. Is he has so much going through his mind from avoiding conflicts of his own making. And I think that these strolls are just his way to kind of,
Clear his head?
I wouldn't say clear his head, but just tune out the world.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's his own little, like, his own special Mozus time. That's what he does.
Yeah, that's what he does in his special Mozus time. Contrary to what some people might believe from some of his actions.
Understood. Another question I had was, how does, and this is probably more a question for Dan, is how does Bankhold know Mozus? He said he's lived there for a couple of years.
Yeah, so
I
say
think I
it
can
states
answer
in the
that.
session 0 or in the intro that Mozus had been in the town for about a year already. So
They're
he would
friends,
have
kinda?
got to know. No, they're not. I mean, as much as you'd be a friend with like your regular barista
let's-
or whoever, somebody that gives you your coffee.
Let's not cut corners or
Split
kind of
Yeah.
split hairs or whatever. Moses is a drinker, and
plain and simple.
yeah,
He likes
Moses
to
is a
drink.
drinker.
He goes to
and-
the bar.
Yeah, that's just the way it is.
And at one point, Mozus had to volunteer Cole in order to take Kabar to the competition. Did Cole ever get his drinks? The ones that Bankhold promised him?
You better believe it.
Okay. All right. Good.
There's no way a guy's going to agree, a military guy is going to agree to be a bartender for a day and not get his pay.
I don't know. Jeff, insights?
I'm with Dan on this one.
Okay.
So now the next parts of my questions are kind of for the group in general. Is, like, for example, what does Blark really think about, like, Mozus, for example? What's Blark's impressions of his teammates?
Too busy talking and not enough fighting for Blark, except for Jorak.
Can go on.
No, that's it.
So basically, contempt for everybody except for Jorak, who can do no wrong in Blark's eyes.
Of course.
Fantastic. How does Mozus feel about the Grand Master? Is he his friend, or is he just his mentor? Are they equals now? What's the deal with that?
Moses, I kind of wrote a little bit of a backstory towards him just to kind of get my head in the game. and Mozus, he doesn't think he's better than anybody or he knows better than anybody. He just does.
So he feels like he's right all the time.
He tries to do the right thing. And he does it to the best his mind can get it together. Some of his ideas are out there, as you can see from his parents, that I kind of took some real world inspiration from the individuals that I figured would make this guy. You know, he just always kind of does what he thinks is the right way to do and doesn't think about repercussions down the line.
Okay.
And even if someone complains about what he did, he finds like, hey, but you're better off, aren't you?
That is very apparent in your session 0. That is, you nailed it 100% on.
Yeah.
In that. And that kind of brings me back to the question about your session 0 tip is, Dan, what was Bankhold's reaction, or how did he first hear about what happened at the competition?
I hadn't really thought of that. I kind of just let it happen in the background.
There's no.
I mean, I would imagine he would know within a few. Well, geez, technically it's not that far from where the competition. Probably within the hour. All of a sudden increase in patronage probably would have tipped him off that something happened. And you can imagine, as any father to daughter, he probably just asked her and she told him at least what she could remember. And then through hearing the patrons and such talk about his daughter in ways he's never heard before, you know, I imagine very quickly he was onto it.
So would you say that his impression of Mozus changed very dramatically within a short time?
Oh, absolutely. There was a whole piece I skirted around. I just allowed them to be upstairs at the bar after the session 0s. But technically, there should have been an encounter between Tip and Bankhole when he came back. But I just let that fall by the wayside and just started where I started it. But that would have been interesting, though I don't know it would have ended in Tip's favor. So I kind of decided to scrap it.
What was Bankhold thinking of doing?
Oh, he was going to beat the shit out of him.
Can we do that? I want to see it. I want to watch it.
I built a character sheet for Bankhold. Usually, with NPCs, you kind of put down like a name, kind of what their motivation in life is, and maybe, you know, how you what voice you use or whatever. But Bankhold, I went like full. He has a full character sheet with stats, and yeah, it was going to.
Can't waste that effort.
I think he probably would have killed Mozus.
Oh, even better. He needs to follow us.
I love it.
Well, I mean, the story's still young.
It is,
and it's going to get very interesting after
if we ever play it again.
Discussions we've had. Yeah, I'm kind of excited to get past this.
Well, I mean, we have the next episode coming out soon, and there's already a bunch of interesting things that happened in there. I don't want to spoil anything because that will be coming out on Monday. What I'm most curious about right now.
I
go ahead.
Talk about it because I don't think this will come out until after episode 2.
Correct.
So I think you're okay to add, you're not going to spoil anything for anybody.
Oh, I guess that's true. That is a very good point.
Get your timeline straight.
Yeah. Unless you release this tomorrow.
I mean, we can cover episode 1 too if you want.
All right.
I mean, there's a lot to cover.
The biggest question I have about episode 1 is in the fight sequence with, well, I don't want to talk about that just yet. In the initial sequence where everybody's sitting in the upper area and they're being introduced to each other, is Alon the same person as the guy in the purple robe during the session 0s who was hosting the competition?
He wasn't meant to be. If it was the same token, I apologize. But no, they're different people. Alon would have been the one that was putting on the whole show. Like, he was the one that organized all of the competitions to find these people, because it's Alon and his group of followers and colleagues that are privy to the information that Ramses was woken and what possibly caused that.
Right, in his explanation of how he needs to return from the reeds or whatever to have his soul at rest, correct?
Yes, he must. Right now, he's eternally walking the field of reeds. And then once we get that far, he will hopefully eventually be returned to the duet.
When you wrote this part of the story, was it just a coincidence that Tip picked Mozus as his character, or was this like was it a response to it being in Egypt?
It was a response to it being in Egypt.
A response, yeah.
Okay.
That was
I
the
mentioned
initial...
it was an Egyptian campaign, and that's immediately what he went.
Yeah. I had my eyes set on it. I had my eyes set on a whole sequence where my character goes at some point and just confronts the pharaoh and goes, does that whole "let my people go" thing. And everyone told me that would be a bad idea.
I could see where that might have been a possibility.
That's a bad idea, Tip.
Yeah. But no, I mean, yeah, it was just one of those things. And then I developed the character as kind of a middle finger to Dan, who said that I couldn't do it.
You can't be Moses, but you could be Mozus.
Exactly. I can't be Moses, but I can be Mozus.
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 Now, I don't know if, Dan, you can say this or not, but were there things inside the initial room where they were all met together for that first time that they overlooked or haven't seen yet, or is that something you can even say?
I'm not at liberty to say just yet.
Fair enough.
There is that teleportation circle that they know about, but they don't know where it goes. They don't know if there's anything else magical in the room. They didn't really look. They just tried to pick a scarab off the wall and poke their own eye.
No, one of us tried to pick a scarab off.
Yeah, not.
Don't lump the rest of us in with him.
What are your thoughts on Bones Conway, Jeff? I mean, what is Blark's impression of Bones Conway?
You recall what Jorak and Blark did to him when he was taking too long and talking too much, and we were bored. I think that sets a pretty good tone.
Do you mean when you guys were basically chasing him around the table?
No, after that, when we tried to pull him apart, and we did not succeed, unfortunately.
Now, Dan, if they had succeeded in pulling him apart, would Bones have been out of the campaign? How does death affect everything?
Death can be permanent. I have a vision to run this game a lot like Critical Role, so if anybody's ever watched that, they kind of understand. I just finished the first campaign just today, so like that's more or less the rule set that I'm leaning on because it's what I'm familiar with via osmosis. Mm-hmm. But so people can die, but they can be revived. There are revival rituals and that sort of thing. So it's possible that they come back, but I don't know what I had in mind in the moment, but I don't believe I was going to allow them to rip him apart anyway.
Okay.
Just for brevity of like, it's going to take time to do a ritual, and technically none of them know how to do it, so it would have had to been an NPC, or just I'd have to make him roll a new character, which would be a pain in the ass because they spent so much time building their character.
I can imagine an NPC just following this group around, waiting for something to go wrong to jump in to be like, okay, I'll fix this.
His name is.
I'll just say you never know who's going to show up and help.
Awesome. Now, how about Tom Jones? How does Mozus and Blark feel about Tom Jones?
Who?
Tom Jones. The Oh, I guess that answers the question right there. Yeah.
I think Mozus kind of sees Tom Jones as the only guy that's gonna like stand up for him.
I thought you were gonna say be useful.
No, Mozus is very cognizant of having muscle around. Hasn't quite figured out.
You're intimidated.
Yes, Mozus is intimidated.
You can say that.
Yeah, hasn't quite figured out what Bones is there for. Can't even steal a scarab when tools are offered.
I don't think Bones knows what Bones is there for.
But I think Mozus looks at Tom Jones as someone that has his back.
Awesome. Very cool. And I know you guys scoured that room. The characters scoured that room looking for different, secrets and possibilities. And after that, it was time to go. You had to go down into the tavern. You were trying to leave, and there were bandits. They had captured Kabar, and it was your job to stop them. And I do have a few nitpick questions about certain things.
Okay.
Because at one point earlier in that, I know that Blark was attempting to hit the wall at one point, and Dan had mentioned that the entire city would have come to attack Blark. What stopped the entire city's guards to come and protect Kabar, or what happened with that?
Sometimes a DM has to say things to get the characters to just play the fucking game. If I would have let them just keep going, like they could have spent 9 hours of game time just going, what's in this book? What's in this book? What's that rock? Can I sweep this up? Can I pick at this? Can I do that? It's like just try and get them to move forward. So
and we would have.
Yeah,
I could see it going a little bit longer. You get to a point when you're on sort of this side of the screen, so to speak, where you're just like, okay, enough. You got to move on. And so you just, do what you can. Like when Mozus digs through the papers, is there anything in here? What did it say?
Right.
No.
And said, go fuck yourself, Moses, or something like that.
Oh, yeah, when you're digging through the trash.
The trash. I figured if something was going to be hidden, it's going to be hidden in a pile of trash.
It's a reasonable guess. As we begin winding down a little bit here, Dan, did that whole fight go the way that you had envisioned, or did something completely unexpected occur?
A little of both, actually. So that fight was the first time I've ever put any sort of encounter together in D&D, because like I said, I've never done this before. Mm-hmm. So it was more of a test. I got the basic gist of how you're supposed to put it together, and I said, okay, well, I don't know how hard they're going to hit. I don't know how much damage these guys are going to do to them. I don't know how quickly the party's going to fall. There's a lot of unknowns, so I was like, until I see it in action, we'll just see. So I threw what I threw at them, and if it was getting sinister, I would have just killed off the bad guys sooner, like cut their hit points short or whatever. It was more just a learning battle than anything. It actually wasn't originally scripted either. I only put that in because of what Tip did.
Oh, so that Bankhold would have a chance to tell Mozus, if you don't get her back, I'll kill you?
A little bit of that, but a little bit like to show that there are repercussions for your actions, depending on what they are. In this case, he took a bar that makes ends meet. They do okay for themselves. They're not rich by any means, but they don't have to shut down. And he took that, and by exposing his daughter to the entire city, made him rich. So on one hand, he's pissed at him for doing what he did to Kabar, but on the other hand, not really. So there's going to be something that comes from that. Either bandits are going to come try to rob them, or like this happened, they're trying to steal the girl. So it's just a little early warning that pay attention to what you're doing, because everything could trigger something else.
Do you feel like how did Mozus feel seeing Kabar captured by these bandits that was most likely brought on because of his actions?
What's the word I'm searching for? Put out.
He was bummed.
He was like, you try to do something good for someone, and these other people have to come and fuck it up.
Okay, well, go on.
It just wasn't something he wanted to deal with, and ended up having to deal with it. Felt responsible not only because he created the situation, but because his life was threatened. So, he felt he had to at least put on a good show.
Very cool.
That's what got you in trouble in the first place.
Yeah, it's exactly what got Mozus in trouble in the first place, but he's not really a thinker.
He's a doer. So,
Yeah.
And that way, Mozus and Blark are very similar. They believe in action. They don't believe in overthinking things.
Sure.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was trying to spark a reaction there. Let me see if there's anything else I had written here. I know that initially it must have been fun that Tom Jones immediately ensnared everybody in that fight, rendering movement useless.
That was great. I'm surprised at how serious these guys are taking the game. Like, this is their first experience with it. For the most part, Blue's played before, but to his, like, he'll tell you he's not very experienced. But that move by Jonathan, that was a perfect bard play, like the perfect placement of that spell. Just everything went right, and it's for somebody that's very new to the game, it's rare that they find one of those, like, yeah, that's exactly what you should have done in that situation, or that's the spell that would remedy that. And it's amazing to see these guys do so well because they're putting so much effort into their characters.
How did and not to get off topic, because he does, Chase is very much like that, where if he's interested in something, he goes all in. So I imagine he was researching quite a bit of what he could do, and he did a great job. I mean, all you guys did. But what was I'm trying to think how to phrase this question. How does Bankhold feel that now that there's blood and guts all over his tavern, and will that affect his business?
I think it'll make his business better.
Yeah, probably. I mean, that situation could go a couple ways. I mean, first of all, he's happy that his daughter's safe. Business is going to continue because people are perverts and they're coming to see his daughter. And I don't know. It could do well for him. It could do well for the party. They may have a place to stay for free for a while if he feels that he's in trouble and they've shown that they can protect him.
That's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Do you think Bankhold might actually forgive Mozus at some point?
Not a chance.
Absolutely not. You have a daughter. What would you think? Well, I have a daughter. I know what I would think.
Yeah, but this is different times. Who knows? I mean, he brought him several amounts of business, and to be honest with you, it's just the interactions between those particular characters has been hysterical. So I would hope at some point in the future they are able to interact a few more times. That was hilarious.
You just like to hear me talk like a Irish or Scottish girl or whatever that accent.
I'll admit that was hilarious. I was like, Dan must be having a fun time trying to pull this off.
I spend hours going, okay, what could they possibly run into in this situation? How far can I let them run? Who could they run into? Great. That's a possibility. What fucking voice are they going to have now? Because they can't all sound like me.
Right. Absolutely.
And then we go the complete opposite direction.
We're good at that.
Yep.
So far, you guys haven't gone way off path. I've been able to keep you within the setting that I need you in. Although oh shit, that's not out yet. Well, something that happens in episode 2. It wasn't scripted at all, but I realized that you guys were not going to complete what I was asking you to complete. So I allowed an alternate solution.
So we covered this. Episode 2 will be out before he releases this.
So you can say
where
our deprivation or not
at the cottage, and you guys were supposed to just look for somebody that could have opened the door. Like, maybe the puzzle wasn't worded properly, which is entirely possible. But basically the idea was like a priest of the god of Amun, who is worshipped in the city, would easily be able to dispel the spell and let you in. Then you wouldn't have had the encounter with the hissy girls. But it was obvious you guys just wanted to touch that door. And really, I should have let you touch the door because that would have been fucking hilarious. But I had to allow that, finding the secret entrance into the basement and everything, because I realized you guys aren't going through that door. You're not going to find anybody to open it.
Well, we had to do things our way.
Oh, no, I'm not saying it as a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, that was something that I wasn't expecting, or I should have been expecting, but I wasn't ready for. But quickly found an opportunity because I was like, okay, they're not going through that door. They're not going to find who they need to find. How do I let them in? And then Sax asks to do an investigation on the ground or something like that, or use his ranger ability or something. And I was like, oh shit, yeah. So I'll let him find a secret entrance there.
Sounds like you got to be doing more investigation checks to assist the story from going. How do you feel that and I want to cover a lot more on episode 2, but I feel like I want to compartmentalize each of the tavern talks into its own thing. So,
sure.
So even though that, episode 2 will be out well before this comes out, I still want to make the next episode, which may be necessary to make at some point, about its own thing. And the more material we have to cover, the better. I mean, episode 2 is hilarious, and I can't wait to share the final edit with you guys because I was cracking up the whole time. But based off of just the events of episode 1, what do you feel is going to be the success rate of your party at this point? Do you feel like they have a chance of returning the soul of the pharaoh to his rest?
Well, after a conversation that we had earlier today in Discord, maybe 50-50. Yeah. I was trying to prepare for the session, and I was looking up encounters and stuff and trying to figure this out, and I realized you should never give level 1 characters legendary weapons.
We're not level 1. Because
it well, you're level 3, but still, it effectively breaks 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, because if you typically if you scale up a monster, which happens all the time with DMs, they'll take something they like and they'll bump up some hit points or whatever. But technically, if you scale up a monster here, their attacks go up as well. And with the health of the party, it wasn't going to work. Like, these things would have killed them in 2 hits, despite the fact that they should be harder because these guys are doing more damage. So I had to take some stats away until they level up a little bit. So it should even everything out. It'll be interesting. I mean, I don't plan on making this terribly hard. I'm not trying to kill anybody. Really just depends on how the dice roll.
Very cool. Very cool. And one question for each of you, and then I think we'll go ahead and wrap up here.
Okay.
Obviously, we can still keep talking, but just for the sake of content recording time.
Yeah.
Sure. Blark, where would he like to see this adventure lead him to? Like, what does he hope to see in the upcoming future?
Gold and fighting.
Those are his 2 MOs, huh? Gold and fighting?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And
that's pretty good.
And you, Mozus, is there anything in the development of the foreseeable journey that you think that Mozus is looking forward to seeing? Like, what are his goals?
That's a good one. I think Mozus is hoping. He's not really one that's a fan of pharaohs,
right?
So if he's kind of conflicted, doesn't really want to be helping a pharaoh. At the same time, that's one less pharaoh in the world. So I think really what Mozus is looking for is maybe he'll pick up a sidekick.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
And lastly, you, Dan, what do you feel that the group is ready to handle the challenges coming forward?
I think they're equipped enough. They're smart enough, and they're learning their characters well enough. So yeah, I think they'll be all right.
Fantastic.
It's gonna ramp up and get real serious real quick. So that'll be fun to see.
Awesome. Well, I am definitely looking forward to the coming adventures of the group of Blark, Jorak, Bones Conway, Tom Jones, and who's the other guy? I forget the other guy.
Mozus.
Mozus, of course. How could I forget Mozus?
Who?
Gentlemen, is there anything else you would like to add?
No.
Perhaps something to give our viewers an incentive to watch?
Actually, I'm having a lot more fun than I thought I would. I'd been very resistant to Dungeons and Dragons in the past because, I grew up playing Magic, and there's only so much stuff like that you can do before people start wondering about you.
That time has passed.
Yeah, and that's definitely not the case anymore.
Yeah. So, I'm having a lot of fun. Something I wish I would have started a long time ago, and looking for groups to continue playing and develop new characters with. That I think is the most fun, is developing characters.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up here. Thank you guys for joining us for this Tavern Talk session. If you have additional questions you would like to ask the characters, please put them down into the comment section. That would be the best way for us to ask these questions to the people participating in the campaign, and that would help us out. Please do not forget to subscribe. Putting the little bell icon as well will allow you to see when each one of these campaigns comes out, and of course a comment is always welcome. So thank you once again for joining us, and we will see you next time. Farewell.
Cheers.
Bye.
Adios.